Like many in the world, we are awash with the latest, greatest Gen AI app that we should download and when we should use it. What's interesting with your list is that we're starting to see basically stability. We're not seeing a whole host of new names each iteration now.
Exactly, yeah. On this version of the list, we only had 11 new names of the 50 on web, which was a real marked divergence from the last list when it was 17 new names on web. And perhaps most striking to me, we've done this list 5 times now. We do it every 6 months. And there were 14 names that have made every single list, which for the fact that we're only 2 years into AI means that we're starting to see some really exciting stability.
Olivia, Mr. Elon Musk has put in the spotlight recently App Store methodology. So for the avoidance of any doubt, would you just go through the methodology of how Andreessen Horowitz has put this list together for the 5th time, I believe?
Yeah, it's all objective data. So for our web list, we use a provider called SimilarWeb. We rank every single website globally by the number of monthly visits, and then we take the first 50 that are generative AI native. And then on the mobile app side, we use another provider called Sensor Tower. We rank them by monthly active users, and we take the first 50 again that are AI native.
So there are some takeaways, right? ChatGPT still dominates, as you can see on the left-hand side of the screen. Google is making progress. The way I explained this to Caroline this morning and how I approach it is, I'm starting to see these tools like streaming subscriptions. I use all of them. Some of them I pay for. Bloomberg gives me a corporate access to ChatGPT. Some of them are free. But at some point, I've got to decide which I don't want anymore. Does the data show any of that, like short-term use, moving to others?
Yeah, it's really interesting. There's a lot of cross-app usage. Quite a few general LLM products made the list, and you might expect that consumers would pick one of these, like ChatGPT or Perplexity or Claude or DeepSeek. Instead, what we're seeing in the early days is consumers are using all of them, but maybe for different reasons every time. But we're also seeing the emergence of things like consumer subscriptions that cost $200 a month to use the best version of ChatGPT and Perplexity. Right. And so if we're moving towards that version of the world, we might expect to see them have to make a choice so you're not paying thousands and thousands of dollars per month across your AI subscriptions.
So blend this with A16Z's own perspective here on whether there will be an LLM to rule them all, whether we'll all end up defaulting to ultimately ChatGPT, or whether it's Gemini or Grok, or whether actually we will be specific and we will see that there are lanes for different apps, for different use cases, and they will have different benefits for many.
I think the interesting thing about this list is ChatGPT is definitely in the lead. So the number 2, Gemini, has about 12% of the traffic on web, so it's a very big drop-off between number 1 and number 2. But there's also an incredibly long tail here. There's apps on this list that have never raised funding. There's apps on this list that have millions of users, but maybe do something as specific as removing a background from a photo or generating a PowerPoint presentation. So I think our view as a firm is that we have the best models in the world from OpenAI, Google, and many other companies that they're making available through API. Some of them are even being open sourced. And that allows companies and developers that are more opinionated about products to build things that will serve customers for more specific use cases. And in many cases, those customers are probably more likely to pay versus maybe using the free version of something like a ChatGPT.
I think what's interesting is, for the last couple of weeks, we've been obsessed about how enterprises are adopting or not adopting to efficiency. The MIT report, the fact that 95% of pilots are ultimately not bringing ROAI. When you're thinking about a consumer perspective here, that some of them names are sort of enterprise in nature. Are people getting return on their AI investment to the amount that they need to? Yeah,
we're seeing a big kind of what I call the great expansion of consumer software, which is really new in the AI era, which is that previously you would see consumer companies take years, if not decades, to actually transition their software to enterprise. Think about Canva. It took them 8+ years to even have a Teams plan. Now we have companies like 11 Labs that are going from 0 to hundreds of millions of revenue in 2 years or less, and many of these companies are actually making much, if not most, of their revenue from enterprises, which is really exciting. We do take a look at the retention data, and our data shows that for generative AI products, there's a lot of tourism. So if you're a free user, you're probably less likely to retain than you would be on a Calm or a Duolingo or a pre-AI subscription. But if you're a paid user, you're just as likely as to retain. So that suggests that the ROI is there, at least for those consumer and prosumer users.
Olivia, we've told you what we're up to. Which apps are you using and how are you using them?
I have a lot of apps I use. I published my whole stack recently. I am a power user of ChatGPT. I'm also a power user of Google on their Ultra subscription. I'm a big fan of VO3 and the new Nano Banana, Photoshop-esque video editing image editing model that they launched. I also use a lot of products like Kriya for creative tools, Gamma I use to create almost all of my presentations. There's everything as specific as a product now called Happenstance that lets you search through your network much more easily than LinkedIn. I would say my top advice for anyone interested in AI is just to try the products because it's absolutely the easiest way to learn.
When you're thinking about investing, I look at some of the names on here. Midjourney is a fascinating case study which have never taken money and been able to scale and hold on and retain users. Where do you think the best dollar is allocated from an A16Z at the moment?
Yeah, it's a good question. We invest both in the model companies themselves, many of which have grown extremely quickly, and then at the application layer companies. I think we're very focused, to your earlier point, about companies that are vertically oriented and are building for specific users. We talk about founders that have kind of an earned secret or a special insight and are almost maniacal about building for a specific user. And so often these are not the extremely general broad-based products that you can do anything on, but are products that are really, really specific for one or two things that users might want to do and almost become their system of record or a new core workspace or canvas for them to get things done.